Hi, this is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devils Wednesday. I almost said Happy Devils Sunday. Welcome to Game Day Live, presented by the Let's Go Devils Podcast Network and the Primetime Radio Studios, along with Crew Brew. My name is Vinnie Parise. I'm right here with my good friend Shorts Guy as we are getting you set for the New Jersey Devils' second half of a back-to-back as they take on the Los Angeles Kings. Welcome to all fans watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever these things are called these days. Shorts Guy. Every time the Devils play the Kings, I think about it, no matter what. Every time, no matter what.
When you and I were
How
there?
Are you doing?
Yeah. Doing good.
Oh, I wish that's what I was talking about. They lost 2-1. They lost 2-1. Like, yeah, okay. Tyler Toffoli scored. It was nice. They beat the Kings earlier this year, if I remember correctly.
They did.
At the Rock, but now they're in Los Angeles. A team called the Devils playing in the City of Angels is always very interesting to me. But Shorts Guy, how was your New Year? Happy New Year.
It was good. Happy New Year to you too. It was good. It was quiet. A little disappointed at the Devils' performance last night. But it's not. We've seen that performance out of them before with a team that's below them in the standings. It's not, not surprising. A team that wants to try to prove itself, a goalie that wants to prove itself or prove himself, wants to play well against the Devils, and they tend to do that. And that's basically what happened last night. The Devils made it interesting at the end, but they just couldn't pull it off. So Happy New Year to you. How was your New Year's? How was the Winter Classic, by the way? That looked like a lot of fun. The Smashing Pumpkins playing tonight. The players walking out towards the tail end of tonight. I was watching that and I was like, what a way to walk out. Now, if he just would have just gone right into zero, and just if they would have ripped into zero as the players went onto the ice, I think that would have been phenomenal. That's it. I would stop watching at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the Winter Classic from start to finish was awesome. The Smashing Pumpkins are one of the bigger bands to come from the local Chicago area, so that's obviously really cool that they're a local band and so popular and so widespread. They did the seventh inning stretch, which was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Kind of
it's a hockey game, but the Smashing Pumpkins, they were the ones who went up there and did it for everyone, and I thought that was really cool. You got to do that at Wrigley, like you said. From beginning to end, it was a very special day of hockey celebration. I mean, we know from going to the Stadium Series last year how awesome those type of events can be. That was my fifth outdoor game, and every single one has something special about it to me that makes me consider it unique. And that's why I think they should keep doing them. They might get a little stale watching on TV. That's fine. They really, but it's for the people that attend and the networks and all the special pageantry that comes with the outdoor games every year. I can't wait to watch the one in Columbus because even though, like I said, it feels a little stale on TV sometimes, but I'll be sitting there watching it, thinking about how all those people's days are going, and that's why it's special to me, and I really enjoy it. As far as New Year. Listen, I think Chicago is a top 3 city in the United States. I think most people think that it's right up there with New York, LA, Boston. I think a lot of people like Houston, Dallas, Miami. These are some of the great towns in the world, all here in the U.S. And Chicago's got the worst New Year's Eve of all time. Because you guys. It's a very fun town to party in on a regular basis. Going out in the city is very fun. The food's magnificent. There are good bars. Wrigleyville at certain times of the year is very fun. It's a popular city in the wintertime for, pop culture and all those sorts of things. And I watch Andy Cohen and Ryan Seacrest and all these guys just have a blast at the New Year's Eve celebration. I see Times Square loaded with people wearing diapers because they can't even go to the bathroom all day while they're there. And it just looks so fun to me. I watched the Chicago one, and it's a bar that is located in one of the suburbs 40 miles out of the city, going crazy at midnight. I'm like, this is a world-class city, and we have the worst New Year's Eve celebration on TV every single year. It's so dry because and it's crazy because the whole world doesn't celebrate New Year right when New York and the East Coast do. We got an hour to wait. So why does ours suck and everybody else's is good? It's crazy to me. But as far as on an individual level, it was a great New Year's Eve. Loved it in every way, shape, and form. Had some good crab legs for dinner. So love New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's a couple things on what you just said there. One. I want to say part of the reason why the outdoor game gets stale for some people on TV is because for example, the Blackhawks, I think that was their 6th outdoor game.
Seventh.
It just seems 7th. It just seems to be the same 4-5 teams are recycled into that outdoor game. So they really got to start. I know the talk is potential down in Miami for a season coming up, which would be wild. They've got the technology to be able to do that. They've done it in Vegas before, and that was in the 80s. So if they can do that in the late 80s, early 90s in Vegas, they could easily do it in South Florida.
And they had a stadium series in SoCal too.
They did. So I want to say that's why it gets a little stale. And it's like yesterday, like, man, you just saw how bad the Blackhawks were on national broadcast, which was, it's just like, well, they only got it because of Bedard, would be my thought.
Yeah.
I mean, the second thing is, they are, an original six, well known. It's a big hockey market, but it's like they were just there for Bedard, and they're terrible. You see them day in, day out. They're just a terrible team. My other thing too, with your, Chicago being, being kind of flat for New Year's. I mean, like, what are you guys going to celebrate? Pizza casserole and Malort? Like, that doesn't sound like too much fun to me.
I mean, that sounds amazing, actually.
I know you love your pizza casseroles out there, and Malort. I know I've never had Malort, but when I come visit you, I'm going to have to try Malort. It's gross.
If you have a shot of Malort and I'm not in your presence, I'm going to be actually mad at you.
I would only have Malort in your presence in the city of Chicago. I'm not having Malort.
I will be actually mad at you. I could bring it. No, it's cool if I bring it there next time I show up. That'd be fine with me. But if you have it and I'm not within 2 feet of you with a photo in your face, I'm going to be a little mad. Like, actually mad, I think.
We're only.
Like that
would
be bullshit.
Malort. I'm only going to do Malort with you, and
Yes.
Katie's going to have to take the picture.
Yes, 100%.
We both have to have the same misery at the same time.
Yes. You're based on what I know about you, I have a feeling you're going to take it and be like, it's not good, but I don't understand why people consider it the worst thing. Like, at this point in my life, I just turned 30, so I'm not like old, but I'm not like, a noob to drinking or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a shot of Malort than a shot of Jack Daniels these days.
See,
like, it's crazy how, like, over time you like change a little bit.
I mean, I was hanging out with the Hot Pot guys 2 Fridays ago, and Billy Dean has been saving this beer for us. I think it was called Snake Venom. It was 65% fortified something or whatever. It was awful, from Scotland. It was one of those beers where you're only supposed to have like a shot of it. First sip, the first sip was like, all right, this kind of tastes like whiskey. And then the second sip, it was like, oh, this is awful. And I watched the guys finish theirs and the reactions they had, and watching them dry heave, and I was like, you know what? I'm good. Discretion is the better part of valor. I'm good. I've seen your reactions to it. I am not having it.
There's no need for that. There's no need for that. And another thing, you talk about pizza casserole. Deep dish is great. It's great. It's not Chicago's number one pizza, though. Only people outside of Illinois think that it's like Chicago's pizza. Now, if you crap on our tavern style, that's fine, because it's cut into squares. You guys aren't used to that. It's not cut into triangles.
Squares out here. We got squares.
Are there squares out there?
Well,
the tavern
Sicilian pies out here.
Oh, but this is thin crust.
We have that too.
And that's we call it Chicago Tavern. That is like the main pizza that deep dish is always kind of like a treat. Like, you have it once every 2 months, like, it's like a special occasion type of thing. It's very touristy. People come here and eat it, and then they think it's the main pizza, and it's just not. It would be like me going to New York and being like, I can't even think of a real good example. Like
getting a dirty water dog and thinking that's an East Coast hot dog.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Which you and I still have to go for really good hot dogs the next time you're out.
Yes, 100%. And then a hot dog will be on the agenda when you come here as well.
Absolutely.
None of this has to do with New Jersey or Los Angeles, which are the two teams being represented today here in this one game, the only game on the NHL's slate. The Kings come in at 21-10-5. The Devils are 24-13-3. Two of the best teams in the NHL right now.
25-3.
Yes. And both of them come in second place in their respective divisions, but have a long way to go. Both are in contention to win their division. Both could realistically come in first, second, or third in their division, and
Yeah.
nobody would really be surprised. That's why these games down
No.
the stretch are going to become very important. Obviously, the Kings and Devils have some history with playing each other in the Stanley Cup final. It feels like yesterday, and I need to finally get it through my head that it was not yesterday, that series, and I could probably let it go a little bit. I still never went back and watched highlights. I watched the game and haven't looked
I
at it since.
I turned it
But
off before the final whistle, so I've never seen that cup awarded. Therefore, it never was awarded. But I feel like the Kings made up for that by beating the Rangers in the Cup final
yes,
2 years later. So that,
yes.
and as far as I'm concerned, being at Game 6 of that playoff run and defeating the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of where that playoff year ended. I mean, I was at Game 5. I was the last game at home, which was a victory. I did a double that day. I saw
Mm-hmm.
Brazil play Argentina at Giant Stadium in soccer, and then went immediately to a Stanley Cup final game. I did a double, hung out with a bunch of Argentinians. Did the Argentinian tailgate. I was in the Argentinian supporter section. It was wild. Go to a Stanley Cup final game, watch the Devils win. So
What a day!
I know, right? I love doing those doubles. I've done the soccer hockey double a couple times. It's
That's
a pretty
amazing.
fun
I've
double.
only done a double in the same sport. I went to a
Really?
Cubs and a White Sox game in the same day. I've never done the Bears Blackhawks or Bears Bulls or Bears White Sox. I never doubled
Mhm.
up on sports. That's something I think I need to do
I
at
think you
some
need
point
to.
in my life.
I've even
I
done the
want to get.
double. I've even
Go
done the
ahead.
double where I've come from a soccer match immediately to one of my hockey games.
Oh, see now that's
That
big time.
yeah. Went to go take a face off, and the ref was like, "How many beers do you have?" Like, none. Just drop the puck.
None here, like
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
building.
None
In this
here.
building, none.
None
Um,
yet.
that's amazing. And speaking of dropping the puck, Devils Kings. I hated the way yesterday's game went because I did
Yeah.
watch it after the Winter Classic was over. I definitely watched it. When they were losing 2-0, I was like, really, you're gonna go down to the Ducks and get shut out? And then Siegenthaler scored, and from that point on, the Devils kind of took over, and it got to the point where Timo Meier was able to get the thing tied up.
Oh, and they hate him.
Yeah, no, they can't stand him there. Like Timo Meier, and scoring on the Kings is like peanut butter and jelly. And so, that was real good. They got it tied up. And then right at the end, the freaking, there's just over 3 minutes remaining, and Ryan Strome scores a goal to get the Ducks ahead, and the Devils were unable to tie it. That's not what you want to see. That's not how you want to end a game. That the Devils probably overall played better than the Ducks. But
Oh, totally.
they lose 2 in a row after winning 6 of 7. So I always say this to people, though, because whenever the Devils lose, my mentions on Twitter, we need to do this to the bottom 6, and this needs to happen, and this structure needs to change. I'm like, there are 82 of these things. There are going to be ebbs and flows. You need to make sure that by April, you are playing your best hockey if you want to win the Stanley Cup. Play well, stay healthy, deal with the ebbs and flows, because we're about to get into the real dog days of the season now. Christmas is over.
Yeah.
New Year's
January,
has passed.
February.
We're about to get into January and February, and it's going to be a grind from now until I think the Four Nations face off. And then I think the Four Nations face off, even though there's a little bit of gimmickiness to it, we're going to get to see Jack Hughes play with Quinn for the first time in a long time. And Team Canada is amazing with Cale Makar and McDavid and all that. And it'll rejuvenate some life into the hockey world after a couple months of just a grind of our favorite teams. And then there'll be that push for the playoffs where every single game means something, and it's basically the wild card teams, and it's going to be nuts from that point on. So I do think people need to relax a little bit, take a deep breath. You play this game against the Kings today, you hope you get something out of it, but there's a lot of hockey left to be played. There's the trade deadline, but January and February up until the Four Nations face-off are going to be hard. You hope that by the Super Bowl, the Devils still are where they are in the standings, and you go into that little break feeling good about yourself. Starts today with the Kings.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap up about last night, yeah, it sucks to lose to the Ducks because they're lowly, but I'm just looking at the game logs for Dostal. So he beat us. making 34 saves, which he played very well. I was watching his game; he played very well. But when you're a good goalie, you're going to want to play well against the good teams. But looking at his game logs, he's also beaten the Edmonton Oilers, the Utah Hockey Club, and the Winnipeg Jets, and the Dallas Stars. Those are good teams. Like, it seems like
what are
he
his
really
numbers?
his
Like,
numbers
he's been amazing
are
overall.
he's got 10 wins, 1 shutout, and his goals against is 2.72. Save percentages in the nines, 9.14. So he's
9.14 is very good.
He's getting peppered with shots, which we did, and he's very agile around the net. If you watched him yesterday, he's very agile, going left to right. He knows where to be. His defense is really good with his rebounds. So this is what one of the downsides of being a good team is. All of the bad teams want to play great against a good team. And that's what the Ducks did yesterday because they've got something to prove. It's one of those things where this is not like, baseball. This is not like soccer where the really phenomenal teams just steamroll the lesser teams. This is hockey. The great teams can be beaten by the crap teams. I mean, they lost. Like, let's look at Dostal's record again. Where was it? He lost to the Rangers. So they're a crap team. So he lost to the Rangers. He's lost to Vancouver. He's lost to Seattle. He's lost to. They didn't lose to Montreal. He lost to Toronto. So it's like he lost to Philly. So it seems to be like when the Ducks are playing teams on their playing field, they're crap, but they're able to play up to good teams because they've still got professionals. The guys that are on Anaheim are still some of the best in the world because they're playing in the NHL. So, but this is the downside of being a great team is all the crap teams want to play great against the great team because that could also be like, hey, come trade deadline, I beat the Devils. You're going to need someone on your team, and I just beat the Devils. So, this is one of the things with success. And when the Devils last played the Kings, I want to say that was about when you brought up the fact that West Coast teams were coming into the metro area and losing to the Rangers, or beating the Rangers, beating the Islanders, and losing to the Devils. The Kings were on a heater when they played the Devils, and we stopped them. So, here's hoping the Devils can do that tonight. I know Max had said in the group that Allen was confirmed in, Tatar is in, Big Mac is out. So, we've got some changes to the roster. I think Big Mac was in as an assurance against Gudas and Trouba, who were kind of non-factors in yesterday's game. The big thing was Dostal frustrated the Devils shooters. He frustrated Jack. Jack looked very frustrated being stopped by him a couple times. Tonight, the Devils got to put it all behind them, and it's a 22-hour turnaround, and they've got to do well tonight.
Absolutely. And Anaheim's won 15 games. That's like the 5th least amount in the NHL.
Yeah.
How many of those wins? So if only 4 teams are worse than them in terms of wins, you would say a majority of Anaheim's wins by math had to have come against teams that are better than them. Yeah. So the NHL is designed for every team to have a chance to win every individual game. Now, the top teams rise to the top because they win those games more often. But last place Chicago, they've beaten so far this season Washington, Minnesota. Washington's 3rd, Minnesota's 5th. They've beaten Florida, who's in 7th. They've beaten Edmonton, who's 9th. Dallas, who's 12th. And Vancouver 16th, and then you go down the list, it gets less and less impressive, but they had a close game against Winnipeg, lost in overtime. They were leading the Devils 1-0, who are 4th in the league, going into the 3rd period. And if it wasn't for a big period from their literal 4 best forwards, Meyer, Bratt, Heischer, and Hughes, the Devils probably would have lost to the Blackhawks in that game. The big boys stepped up and got the win, but it was an impressive performance by the Blackhawks in that game overall. And that's just the way this league is designed, man. You can't go into any game thinking that you have no chance to win, and you can't go into any game thinking you are guaranteed to win.
Parity. And I want to say that a big reason why the Devils beat the Blackhawks is because Samu and I were not in the same spot twice. Same thing against the Kings. Samu and I were not in the same spot twice. for any of those goals, for or against. And then, I want to say that part of that is Samu and I. But looking in the chat, a couple of people mentioning Nico and his play last night. Nico was frustrated last night. Nico was uncharacteristically mixing it up. And I want to say that just shows his leadership abilities. Like, we don't really see Nico getting into the scrums. We don't see Nico, taking it out on other players. It's not that he's not hitting players. It's not that he's not playing physical. But Nico was really frustrated last night and really trying to lead by example with the physical play. And they even mentioned on the broadcast, like, there goes Nico's Lady Bing efforts for this season, because he went from 2 penalties. I want to say it was 2 penalties to having 6 minutes in penalties yesterday in one game. So he was visibly frustrated. And I'm curious if he's frustrated because of the way that the Devils have had officiating go against them in the last 2 games specifically, because even last night, there were some calls. There was a matching calls against Brendan Dillon, and I forget who went there on the Duck side. And I rewound it, and I'm watching, like, where's the penalty for Dillon? It's just like, at one point, Nico was in the box he got a 2, and he got a double. It wasn't a double minor on the same play, but they called matching penalties, and then they called one more on Nico. And it's like, how the hell did they call that? So I'm curious if that's frustration being, boiling over because of the way that the Devils have been, the officiating that they've seen in the last couple games, which, if you've never been on a rink and you've never been the victims of officiating gone wrong, man, let me tell you, it's frustrating as hell. When you see things happen and you're like, you're not going to call that, and then your team does the smallest of things and the official calls that, you understand why these players lose their mind sometimes, because sometimes you lose your mind because it gets so frustrating. You can only contain that frustration for so long. I want to say that was part of Nico's frustration yesterday.
It absolutely was. And to clarify what you said, at 15:58 of the first period, Brett Leeson got 2 minutes for holding against Brendan Dillon, who also went to the box at the same time for interference. And then in the second period at 8:20, Alex Killorn was called for elbowing against Nico Hischier, who at the same time took a 2-minute minor for hooking and a 2-minute minor for elbowing. So little skid there.
That Dillon penalty, like, I watched it again. I'm like, where is it? Like, where was it? Like, it was the smallest of interference calls on him. It's like, really?
Yep. And in the third period, Hischier and McTavish both went off for roughing at 13:20. So that looks like it's
6 minutes.
Looks like it's 6 minutes for Hischier. One of the penalties was served by McDermott. You know what's funny though? Hischier also drew a penalty in the game, though. Actually, he drew two penalties in the game. So his ratio still kind of like stays mostly even despite a game. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's just a really good player, and I don't think anybody on the Devils takes losing harder than him. I do think like Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meyer. I think some of these guys, they understand the ebbs and flows. He sure wants to win every single game. And for anyone who questions why he's the captain of the team, I think that's why. Because other guys understand that it's hard. You're not going to win every game. You just got to play. And he sure's like, no, need to win every single shift, need to win every single game. And I am pissed when we don't.
Yeah, no, you can definitely, you definitely saw his leadership on display in a little bit different way last night. And that's the reason why he's the captain. It makes you go back to his draft year. And it was Patrick Nolan or Nico Hischier, Patrick Nolan or Nico Hischier. And we're really lucky the Devils scouts said, nope, Nico's our guy, not Nolan. Because you look what Nolan is out of the league now. Like, he was a phenomenal player going into that draft. But his injury history was bad, and the Devils scouts said, nope, Nico Hischier's our guy, and we could not be more grateful for that scouting staff for picking Nico Hischier.
Yep, and Heiskanen went third, and Makar went fourth, and there's some criticism that comes with that, of course, because especially Makar is probably the best or second best. I think he's the best defenseman in the NHL, one of the best ever so far. But if they had Makar and not Hischier, they'd have a surplus of defensemen. and
Yep.
they would have a big hole down the middle, like a big
Eh,
hole. They really don't have a hole on defense by not having Makar.
No. But then you go back in history, the Flames traded up to draft Trevor Kidd, and the Devils draft this kid named Martin Brodeur later on. I think it was pick number 19.
Yep.
Drafted this kid Martin Brodeur, and it worked out much better for us than it did Calgary. So draft picks are not always, solid wins, and sometimes
No.
it happens. But still, Heischer over Nolan Patrick was one of the best things the Devils scouting groups did.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And going into that draft, I remember being confused. I was like, I don't know who I want, but it ended up working out for the best. And speaking of goalies that worked out for the Devils, really quick before we get into our predictions. And while I say this statistic, I would like each and every person to go into the chat right now, throw in your predictions. Because quite frankly, we got to get the show on the road. The game's going to start soon.
I know.
Jacob Markstrom was named the NHL's third star of the month for December. 8 wins, 1.30 goals against average, a .937 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Has certainly asserted himself into at least the conversation to be nominated for the Vezina Trophy. Shorts guy, you're the goalie. He's going to sit tonight, but Jake Allen's been awesome. Or Jacob Markstrom's been awesome.
He has been, and I was a little critical of him in the beginning. He's learning a new system, learning a new defensive core in front of him, it takes time to get into that synergy, but he's figured it out. His blocker side was a little bit weak. He's figured that out. I think the last thing he's got to work on, and this is really no fault of his own, he seems to be a little shaky on first shots. And by first shots, I mean like the first shot he faces in a period or the game. Now, granted, the first goal was on the first shot. That was a turnover right behind the net, which passes out to the slot. Even for the professional guys, that's something that you have to be like. It's tough to get to be prepared for that. And it's definitely not the best look to get scored on your first shot. But then he ripped off like 15 or 16 saves right after that. So it put the Devils behind. But he did not allow another goal until well into I think it was the third when the Ducks got their second goal. So yeah, he made up for it, and he was the reason why the Devils made it through that second period. There was quite a few shots again. So yeah, he's going to be. He could be a Vezina candidate, and unfortunately, probably won't get it because this is Hellebuck's Vezina to lose this year. It just happens to be that this is the season that Hellebuck is just playing out of his mind. We're going to see him in the Four Nations, and I'm assuming we'll see him in the Olympics, which would be next year. But this is unfortunately, Hellebuck's Vezina to lose. So it's great he would be in the conversation, but I just don't think that unless Hellebuck falls off a cliff, it's going to be tough for Markstrom to, I think, eclipse what Hellebuck is doing in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and we're all. And
I'd like to be wrong. I'd like to be wrong.
Absolutely, I would also like Team USA to win the Four Nations face-off, and if that were to happen, we probably need Mr. Hellebuck to be on top of his game. Markstrom, when he came in second for the Norris Trophy, that was in the 2021-22 season, and that's the year Igor won it. So
not Norris, you mean Vezina? Norris.
Did I say Norris? I meant Vezina. Well, he came in second the year that Igor won it, and he's coming fourth in a year that Hellebuck won it. Looking at the list, Tuukka Rask second, Andrei Vasilevsky third, Markstrom fourth. So he's been in the conversation before. This is nothing new. I'm going to read predictions. Steve Engel says 2-1 somebody. That means Devils in my brain. Joseph says 5-1 Devils. Selecta says 4-2 Devils. Survey 3-1 Devils. Cram says 4-2 Devils. Eddie 3-2 Devils. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Eddie. Eric says 3-1 Devils. Must stay patient. Get pucks deep at all times. Pucks in deep. Shots on goal. Or pucks on net. Pucks in deep.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the third one.
Net front presence.
Michael Rossi says 2-1 Devils in overtime. And then Max went on to make fun of me for saying the Norris Trophy when I meant the Vezina Trophy, which I absolutely deserve, because what kind of moron doesn't know the difference between the Norris Trophy and the Vezina Trophy, right?
We all
Three
make
to one.
mistakes.
3-1 Kings, says Brian. Max says 3-2 Devils. Really tight game with us being on our heels. Happy New Year. Yeah. So, Shorts guy, your prediction.
I think that Jake Allen needs to really step it up for today, and I think the whole team needs to forget yesterday and move on to today. But I also know what Jake Allen's history has been in the last couple games. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be 5-4 Devils. It could potentially be in overtime, but definitely I want to say it's a 5-4 Devils, maybe even potentially a 6-4 if the Devils are 5-4 up and they get the empty net. So, but at least 5-4 Devils tonight.
For sure. With the way the Kings defend and the way the Devils have defended before these last two games, I like to think that today's kind of the game where they kind of get back to that. So I'm hoping that the Devils find a way to score more goals than the Kings, but I'm going to go with a 3-1 Devils final. And then we got Mr. Penn State alum and winner of a college football playoff game, Sam Wu, chiming in with the 9-3 Devils victory. 9-3. Let's go. If they score 9 goals, I'll go buy a bottle of Malort and take 9 shots.
I would love to see that. And you got to do it live. You got to do it live.
Oh yeah. Like
you and I just gotta talk hockey. You and I just talk hockey, and you just start slamming 9 shots.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the Devils After Dark plan is for tonight, but I hope Scotty of Sirius XM Liquid Metal knows that if the Devils score 9 goals, I'm interrupting his party to take 9 shots of Malort, and I have to work 2 jobs in the morning. So
I will jump on for that one specifically. I will jump on.
Yeah.
I do need to bring this up because it's kind of a dark day over here on the East Coast for a lot of us. Let's see. Art Heaton just said 5-3 Devils, and Stephen Engel said 5-4 is a defensive failure and Jake Allen failure. Not always, because it's not always the goalie's fault for letting
win the game.
Win the game. Unfortunately, as of midnight last night, a lot of us, and I see a lot of the chatter in the chat that have Optimum, no longer can watch the Devils play on television. So we're now joining the likes of Beer Baron, who hasn't been able to watch the Devils for like 2 years now. So now, unfortunately, a lot of us that are in this chat, a lot of us, myself included, can't watch the Devils on television because of a bunch of millionaires squabbling over money, and we're stuck in the middle. So those of you that have Optimum, I've seen, and I've checked my email, but I haven't officially gotten it yet, but I've seen rumors of Optimum is offering some kind of a discount for Fubo. I did log on. Apparently my Gotham Sports still works with my Optimum account, but yeah, for those of us that Max just through his sports app that he watches some games through, but yeah, it's a bit of a dark day because a lot of us can't watch the Devils anymore on television, which this is what sucks. It's the fans, us, the little guys are stuck in between of a squabble of millionaires and billionaires, and it's just so stupid. It's just so stupid that we cannot watch our team. And which the irony is, too, James Dolan's stupid Rangers, you can't even watch them. If you're so stupid to be a Ranger fan, you can't even watch them on his formerly owned, Optimum, which used to be Cablevision. Selectaboy, Selectaboy, the Devils just need to be on SNY. That's what the Devils need to be in this area, is on SNY with the Mets. And I know Sam would love the Devils being on SNY. That's really what the Devils need to do. They need. Oh, there's something flying around me. The Devils need to really get off of MSG because, one, why are we on a network that is named after our biggest rivals? Even though Billy Dean doesn't believe that we're rivals, our biggest rivals' stupid dump of an arena. Oh, you haven't heard that one yet, have you, Vinny?
I mean, that's just dumb.
On Hot Pot on Monday, Billy Dean was saying that we're not the Rangers' rival. We're just the little brother. We're not the Rangers' biggest rival.
You could give me the little brother thing because there's less, but not a rival.
This is why you have to come on Hot Pod one of these weeks.
They're the closest two teams in the NHL. There are no teams closer.
Yes, close proximity is really what makes you the rival.
And they've played each other. Each of them won a Stanley Cup with like going through the other, like,
Can you come on Hot Pod this coming week?
I don't want Billy Dean to hate me though.
That's okay.
'Cause, like-
he hates me a lot too.
Like, that's arguably the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's like saying the Bears and the Packers aren't rivals.
Yeah. No,
Because
I'm making
the
Billy
Bears
Dean
are
this
very
one.
much little bro. The Bears are very much little brother. They always get their shit rocked by the the Packers. Excuse my language. But what do you mean they're not rivals?
Please come on Hot Pod soon. Please watch -1 and come on Hot Pod.
Yeah, because I got to get that. I can't believe I haven't done that.
Oh yeah,
I
no.
mean, what a
And
moron I am.
I'm not letting him forget that. And I've been going in. There's this Ranger group that keeps coming up because I keep going into it, watching their fans lose their minds. It's been awesome. I saw Sam Wu. You wanted to say something?
Yeah,
Sam, come on
I'm
back
confused. Did he want
What
to
do you
say
got,
something
Sam?
before we end it?
with your safety yellow on.
It's really MSG.
I know.
Look, if will Erica come back with the Devils since she's on SNY right now? You know,
And NHL Network.
yeah, NHL Network.
Yeah.
But
And
honestly,
MLB
it's this is what's happening right now, and I'll explain the economics of it. The Rangers, Knicks, Dolan has been playing this game for many years,
Yep.
and finally they're obsolete, and that's why he had to sell a Cablevision, and this is all he has right now is
Yeah.
the Rangers and Knicks, and that's really all he has. And you know, if the Devils ownership group really wanted to, they can start their own RSN. But why should they? RSNs are going bankrupt right now around the country. So right now it's all about the app. But the Devils, if anything, should have their own app of the Commanders, the Sixers, and the Devils, because they simply own the teams, and put in the Guardians as well and other stuff that they own, and put it all on one app. And you know what? If you get season tickets with the Devils, it comes included with your package.
That's what. So the last 2 years, the MLS league wide has gone to Apple TV, and the Red Bulls have offered to their season ticket holders a free subscription to the MLS Pass on Apple TV. That's the only way you can watch it, and that's what the Red Bulls have offered. And that's the only. I want to say that might be the only thing they've given season ticket holders is access to the MLS Pass on Apple TV, and it's been phenomenal. So Sam, there's precedent for that, and I
Actually,
I
and
don't
you
mean to
know,
jump
Shorts
on,
guy, and you know, Shorts guy.
Right.
I
You're right.
told you this 15 years ago. That's where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You did.
hey, if the Devils want to hire me because I know how to stream, unlike a lot of people.
And predict the future.
Oh yeah, 2025.
Oostradamus.
Yeah.
Oostradamus.
Ooh, I'm also going to predict that.
That makes me think of the. That makes me sorry, Vinny. This is a little bit before your time. That makes me think back to that Conan O'Brien bit in the year 2000.
Oh
that he used
yeah.
to do the turn of the century.
That
was
2000. That was a great bit.
That was a great bit.
Yeah.
That was a great bit leading up to the year 2000. Sorry, Vin. It's a little bit before your time.
I remember the turn of the century, but not like the jokes that came with it at all.
Oh, there were
None
plenty
that.
of them. There were
Yeah, I'm
plenty of
sure.
them.
Like, I'm pretty knowledgeable in streaming. You know that whole Netflix thing that happened with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know where the bottleneck came from. So, you know.
Hire Sam Wu.
Yeah. They
Yes,
should hire
listen.
me. You know, it's not that hard. You just got to spend the money, you know. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, do you want to close out the show? Do you want to hit the music? I mean, you might as well.
Yeah. We only got a couple minutes for puck drop.
Yeah, I mean, one last thing on it. The one thing you can count on is this podcast is not affiliated with a big network. So, you know, like, and I'm not saying anything wrong, but, you know, you've got Locked On. It's part of the Locked On network. These are billionaires that put money into it. there are other podcasts that they have Sportsnet. They've got billions of dollars in the bank or whatever. They've got investors, whatever. This podcast, well, is funded by a couple Devils fans, and that's it.
Hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
This podcast is built on hopes and dreams.
Yeah. So
and the generosity of Frank the Tank.
yeah. So we don't have an outside source that tells us what to say. So
No.
And that's the way we keep it because, have we had offers? Not going to say either way. But I will say that for whatever reason, as this podcast grows, we say what we mean, and you're never going to get into any of this, MSG, Comcast, whatever crap. A lot of companies get bought and sold, like Locked On got bought and sold a couple times. People made a lot of money off of it, but this podcast, this is more for you. So
yes.
So as long as I'm alive, the podcast was on.
And the whole premise of us being here, Sam, is just a couple people talking Devils hockey at a bar.
Yeah, literally.
Really good at.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing we're good at in life. Everything else we're not good at,
No, I mean,
basically.
I'm a decent goalie.
I do eat. Vinnie eats.
Ooh,
Yeah. Although now, so far, I'm still a vegetarian for this year. So,
nice.
And you're making Steve very happy. But Vinny, before we go, you got to watch -1, and you have to come on Hot Pod.
All right, one day I'm just going to shock you. Like, hey, I'm
Cool.
ready to go.
You got to tell Sam. He'll set it up. We won't even tell Billy Dean. You'll just show up, and you'll be like, Billy Dean, so we're not rivals, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make him hate me.
No.
Actually, now that I think about it.
And I have the ability to mute him, and he only can listen to us. Anyway.
I'm down.
All right. Well, I want to thank all those tuning in, dropping the podcast in about 20 minutes. Devils After Dark after the game. Till next time, let's go.